didn't know that being quoted in the Times would be a life-changing event, and maybe it isn't always. But for me, it was. Trump has a talent for attracting attention, which has a halo effect on researchers like me who study him. Requests from reporters flooded my inbox, and I answered them. The Conversation invited me to write a piece on Trump and demagoguery. I agreed and typed up my research notes into a short article. That article was published under the headline, "The Rhetorical Brilliance of Trump the Demagogue," and went on to be reproduced by at least 20 publishers. It was read worldwide and even translated into Japanese by Newsweek. More reporters emailed. More article invitations followed. Over the course of the election, at least 250,000 people read my articles on Trump's rhetoric in The Conversation. And I have no idea how many people read quotes from me about him or heard me talk about him. I was invited on podcasts and radio programs. I was invited to be a panelist at high-profile public events like the Socolo Getty Villa Conversation about demagoguery. Famous reporters tweeted things I wrote. My explanation and definition of paralipsis, "I'm not saying, I'm just saying," was the word of the day, twice. I was offered book contracts. And when Trump was inaugurated, I was invited on NPR's All Things Considered, where I repeated, again, the same example of Trump using paralipsis from that week when I studied what Trump said for the New York Times. It's been exhausting, terrifying, exhilarating, and humbling to be a part of the public conversation about Trump's demagoguery. The public response to my work, comments on articles, emails, tweets, phone calls, letters sent to my office, engagement, as they say, was intense but mostly positive. I was criticized by Clinton supporters and by Trump supporters. Right-wing pundit Ann Coulter took the time to roll her eyes at me on Twitter when the New York Times article came out, which startled me, to be honest. Things got a little scary when a panel that I was on at the Texas Tribune's TribFest was ambushed by conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, who turned it into political theater for InfoWars. But lots of people also encouraged me to keep writing and talking. Folks were kind enough to say that my explanations were useful. I'm not a journalist, which means that I didn't interview anyone to write this book. I studied texts and what has been said in public. This is a history book, a history of the present. To write this book, I've watched and rewatched every Trump rally. I've transcribed most of them. I've read Trump's books. I've watched all of his interviews and read his tweets. I've read as many articles as I could about what Trump was doing and why in traditional and non-traditional media. I've read white nationalists, conspiracy theorists, and the manosphere, all Trump's people, which helped me make sense out of Trump's more perplexing appeals. I've studied Trump relentlessly in order to be able to explain his rhetorical strategies clearly. In October 2018, Jonathan Tylove of the Austin American-Statesman called me probably the leading authority on Trump's rhetoric. I probably am. This is my take on how Trump used demagogic rhetoric to take advantage of pre-existing distrust, polarization, and frustration to win the presidency in 2016. Introduction. Demagogue for President. The announcement spectacle. An hour before he was scheduled to announce his presidential campaign, members of Donald Trump's staff stood outside Trump Tower in New York City, inviting tourists to come inside and make some memories. Once inside the building's gleaming orange and pink marble and gold interior, staffers handed the tourists "Make America Great Again" t-shirts and signs reading, "We want Trump," and "Trump for our future," instructing them to stand near the tower's famous escalators. The tourists joined hundreds of others. Many were paid actors, also wearing staff-provided shirts and carrying signs. The casting call had asked for actors willing to help cheer him in support of his announcement. And so the tourists and the actors played their role. After his daughter Ivanka introduced him as the opposite of politically correct, the tourists and actors could be seen enthusiastically waving their signs as Neil Young's